a passionate instigator and dynamic problem solver. Dr. Kevin Ross Emery, the host of the Dr. Kevin Radio Show, will be taking you outside the box, behind the curtain, and identifying the load of BS we are fed every day. And now, Dr. Kevin.
Hello, 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 and welcome to the Dr. Kevin Show. We are here today with our once-a-month co-host, Lori Powers Auto. I can today. Sorry, you're going to have to interview our guest tonight. I think I'm just going to sit here and go, what? Remember, we are a live call-in show, and you can call in at 202-570-7057. That's 202-570-7057. You can ask questions of me, Lori, or tonight's guest. The only thing we ask is that the questions be respectful. You don't have to agree with us. You don't even have to like us. We actually don't really care. But the question must be respectful. So before we introduce tonight's guest, how are you?
I'm doing well. I am doing well. It's been, as you know, a year, but it's all good. We both have big days to celebrate tomorrow, so it's all good.
So yes, tomorrow is your anniversary and my anniversary, both of our wedding anniversaries, but we just want to assure the audience it wasn't the same wedding and we're not married to each other.
Correct. Unless tomorrow's also day, because it's my husband's birthday. Tomorrow's also my so you'd have to change yours.
Yeah. No, it's neither one of our birthdays. So how many years have you guys been married?
40.
40. Oh, my God, it's a big one. 40 years married. Boy, tonight's guest is probably going to be a lot of help to you because after being married 40 years, I'm sure you probably must be having a lot of anxiety realizing that, 40 years and you're still there. Oh, I'm sorry.
Shame on you.
I know. But you know what? Shame, I don't know anybody that shame looks better on than me. It matches the color of my eyes. It goes well with my hair. So, hey, if somebody's got to wear shame, it's me. I wear it proudly. So, what can I say? Like I do everything else, proudly. So, anything before I introduce tonight's guest that you want to share besides, flaunting the fact that, you're 29 and have been married for 40 years?
I know. I'm just incredible. No, I just want to make sure that I do, in fact, say happy anniversary to you and Jeff.
Thank you. And happy anniversary to the two of you. So we're all good. We're all happy. We're all anniversaried. And we're all getting ready to move to vote, right?
Yes.
I want everybody in our audience, I want you to vote. I want you to get out there. I want you to make a difference. I want you to make change. Not that I want you to change who's in power, mind you. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying I want you to be part of the solution and not part of the problem. And the number one problem, you would think it would be idiots in this world, but actually it's not idiots. It's still the apathetic, strangely enough. The ones that are too apathetic to find out any version of the truth and either do nothing or simply do what they're told. Either one, it's still a form of apathy as far as I'm concerned. So on that note, before our guests can hang up and go, what the hell did they get me into on this interview? Tonight's guest is Faust Ruggiero. I'm sure I probably crucified the name, and feel free to correct it because I'm okay with that. I may massacre it a couple more times. I'm just honest. But I'll do my best. He has the Fix Your Anxiety Handbook. It's his second book in a series of self-help work created by Faust. Sorry. I want to pronounce it Faust, and it's Faust. Who has been in private practice for over 30 years. You can find out more about him if you come to the Dr. Kevin Show on Facebook. You'll find all his information. Though we don't actually have a website to send them to or a place to get the book. I know that my staff just prints what they get from your staff. So you're going to have to fill us in on that. And so we want to make sure that people know how to hunt you down. Faust, welcome.
Kevin, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. And at the end, we'll give everyone all that information. It's just my name and .com, FaustRuggiero.com will get you to the website, and everything you need is there. But it's a pleasure to be here.
Well, we're glad to have you here on the Dr. Kevin Show. And we're a place that we try to create as much anxiety for people as possible. So they need your handbook. We're trying to get you business.
Wait.
So my first question for you is, I want to know, I'm going to kick off with the first question, and then I'm going to let Lori ask hers. But I want to know, there's a lot of things about anxiety, and there's a lot of different approaches. There's a lot of different thoughts. There are even people that say there are different kinds of anxiety, and it's not a one-size-fits-all, so to speak. What I want to know is, I like to take my listeners outside the box. I would like you to tell our listeners something about anxiety that you think is something that they've probably never heard, or that a way in which they've never looked at it. Because, everybody's talking about anxiety. They're even talking about it anxiously. So what do you have to share that might be something that my listeners go, I never thought about it that way. I never saw it that way. I've never heard that before. What do you have for us?
Kevin, when you start looking at anxiety, and you're right, there are so many definitions, so many ways to look at it. and in everything I do, my practice, whatever it may be, I like to be just straight to the point with people and give them something that's actionable so they can work on it. And I always tell people, start with anxiety as a physical condition. People have a tendency, they'll feel the anxiety, they'll feel that it's physical, but they tend to try to work it through their mind. And that's actually going backwards. The key to anxiety is to calm the body. And that means doing things that are going to get your body healthy and teach you how to address anxiety when that comes into your life. It's always physical first.
I like that. That makes sense. And you're right. I have two nieces that suffer horribly from anxiety. And oddly enough, they live near you, so maybe I can get that worked out. But one was horribly crippling. I mean, there would be days she couldn't get out of bed. But she kept, like you said, she kept trying to fix it with her mind and not with her body. It wasn't until she began having children that she started looking at life from a different angle. And it's getting better, actually, because now she's taking better care of herself and she's, looking at life in a different way. And my other niece, she got into exercise and taking care of her body and eating properly and stuff. And her anxiety is almost totally, completely gone. So, I mean, I like this perspective because I haven't heard this from anybody else.
People will always talk about the triggers for anxiety and what stresses in your life and the pace of life, and those are all good points. However, if you're going to treat it, then you've got to start with where it begins. And the key is always the body. When we start trying to figure out with our mind, the mind is actually the third component in this. It's actually physical to emotional to intellectual. That's the way it works. Anytime you're working with a physical ailment, it's going to go primal first. It's going to hit the body. Then the next step up from the primal is the emotions. From the body, it's the emotions, and then it's the intellect. By the time it gets to the brain, the body's already in full swing, and now you're trying to look for things that maybe you did that you shouldn't do, or ways to fix it. Now you're trying to avoid what's coming up in the future. You're thinking about what happened in the past, all that kind of stuff. And now the brain, which again is part of the body, is experiencing an onslaught of emotions and rapid thinking. The mind is just imploding, and we're trying to use that particular organ to solve things. The first thing we have to do is calm the body down. Once we do that, we give the emotions some time to process. We give the brain some time to look for solutions.
Now, do you, and I have to be honest, I lost a little bit because somewhere, just as you started to answer my question, my thank you cell tower, my call dropped and I had to come back in. So, but I'm picking up the pieces now. So I got the physical, then you go to the emotional, and then you go to the brain to kind of get the body so it can actually receive calm thoughts, so to speak.
Right.
Because
if you don't calm the body down, the body is now on an accelerated pace. We don't think well when our body is in that pace. And I'm not talking about a few cups of coffee or something like that. People will do that to say, my mind gets clear. With anxiety, it feels like 30 cups of coffee. I mean, your mind, you're ready to jump out of your skin sometimes. You're not going to think well then. The key is to go to that first component and get that calmed down first. And often what happens with people, something triggers the anxiety and they think that's what causes anxiety. That's just a trigger. For some people, that same trigger won't do the damage, won't cause the anxiety. So we know that people who will react to the trigger are people who have that anxiety component built into their bodies, and they will react. So it's about learning how to get the body healthy. It's about learning how to calm it down before the anxiety gets to the crisis point.
So do you ever take in that, and it's still coming into the body first, but it's coming, so tell me, questions are colliding in my head. Lori's used to that. So tell me where, when you say you have to start with the body, what do you think is happening physiologically that's creating the body to go into anxiety? Where do you look?
Well, again, some people are susceptible to it. When I do family histories, we just don't see one person had anxiety. We rarely see this. One person had anxiety, you can't find it anywhere else in the family. We can go back generations and it's been there. So genetically, we're the way we'll look at it is some people are just predisposed to a nervous system that overreacts. And where people get off base, which I think is another part of your question, is it comes in through my mind. Well, something triggered it, but then it's interpreted. The mind and the body are in constant communication. It hits the body, and the body it'll either, if it's healthy, will begin to calm down, or if it's not, it'll begin to overreact. So we want to get that body as healthy as possible. So when we do receive sensory stimuli, it's not overloading our nervous system.
Now, do you feel that our modern environment has increased the sensitivity to, wreaking havoc with the nervous system, which is what I'm hearing you say?
Well, there's no doubt about that. We have a very fast-paced society, but it's really kind of a two-headed beast here. The society goes fast, but we've embraced an accelerated pace, and many of us actually seek it out. We overload our day with stimuli. We pump our body with caffeine and monster drinks, so to speak, and whatever else we're doing, all those energy drinks. We're not eating properly. We're not sleeping the right way we should. I always call this feeding the beast, feeding the demon. I talk about anxiety as the anxiety demon, that thing inside you that just, you feel like there's someone in there just tearing you apart. The key is not to feed that. The key is to starve that part of the negative part, the toxic parts of your life, and then begin to build a healthy component into there. We on the other hand, have embraced an accelerated lifestyle. We champion that lifestyle. If someone is trying to slow down their life and put a kind of a tranquil life together, we may actually look at those people and say that they're non-productive. We want to grab as much as we can in one day, and we're not built to do that. Our body is built for periods of activity and periods of rest, and we're not giving it that second component.
Well, and even what we do for rest these days is oftentimes stimulating because,
correct.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it, being on your phone, being on your computer, being on social media, all of that stuff, people look at, I'm going to take a break and check my Facebook. That's not a break to your nervous system.
No, what happens is we're never disconnected. I always, talk about that as when in my generation, we went to school, we came home, we played, we did homework, we went to bed. That was it. Now they come home and they're never disconnected. Something happened at school, they're all into it yet. There's bullying online. Adults never get off their phones. There's no communication at home. So that accelerates all this, all the toxic parts of things. People aren't communicating. People aren't helping each other out. We're isolating. And then, like I say, there's no healthy schedule in life. And when people come into the office, I'll say, how much are you sleeping? And my average is 5 and 6 hours with people. That's nowhere near enough. There's no schedule. They're up on the phones all night. It's stimulating games. You're right. Substance abuse is in the picture. They're all the negative things we do. It's not uncommon for people to, drink 4 or 5 cups of coffee a day, maybe an energy drink here and there, then come home and feel wired, and then begin drinking some alcohol or smoking pot or whatever they do. It's just an up and down syndrome, and it never stops.
Now, do you ever get in your book? Do you ever get in? Oh, we're taking our first break, and we will be right back here on the Dr. Kevin Show.
Conscious media for conscious minds. OMTimes. Have you ever wondered how to change your love paradigm? The secret key is finding a love partnership, not just a regular connection. How do you find these? Through conscious relationships. Ascending Hearts Dating is a dating site for people like you that believes in second chances and a different type of spiritual connection. Try Ascending Hearts for free today at ascendinghearts.com and change your love paradigm. Ascending Hearts, the premier dating community for the spiritually awake.
Shift your life at Shift New York. This year, the 16th annual Shift New York Holistic and Psychic Fair will celebrate your healing and wellness. Join us this October 29th and 30th as we are featuring top holistic practitioners and the best spiritual teachers from the Northeast. Join one of our free workshops on spiritual topics to help you shift your life. Discover dream interpretation, animal communication, sound healing, and so much more. Other activities include tarot reading, alternative energy, spiritual healing, mediumship. Private readings and energy healings are also available. You will not want to miss this. Pre-book to guarantee your spot. Shift your life with us. Learn more at shiftnewyork.com.
You came across someone struggling with hunger. How would you recognize them? Would you notice an 8-year-old girl who's not excited for summer break
because she may not be having lunch again until September?
Or a war veteran who's having a hard time landing a job
and getting back on his feet?
I am the 1 in 8 Americans who struggle with hunger. I am hunger in America.
Hunger can be hard to recognize. Learn why at IamHungerInAmerica.org, brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Hello, 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 and welcome back to the Dr. Kevin Show. We are here with Faust Ruggiero. He, for almost 40 years, has been doing cutting-edge counseling programs. He's an author, a clinical trainer, and a therapist. We are talking about his second book, though we may get into his first book. We are talking about the Fix Your Anxiety Handbook, which is his second book, and his first book is Fix Your Life, is it? I'm sorry, I'm looking for that information, and I blew it. I just saw it. See, I told you, Laura, you can't let me talk.
The Fix Your Anxiety Handbook, I think, is what you're looking for, Kevin.
It's the second book in the Fix Yourself Empowerment series. What was the first one?
The Fix Yourself Handbook. That's our foundation book. That covers about 36 different topics. This book is dedicated just to anxiety.
Okay. That's where I was reading the stuff, and I was reading it, and I was confused. So the first Fix Yourself Handbook, and then today we're talking about the Fix Your Anxiety Handbook. So, do you ever get into, like with the anxiety component, do you ever get into doing working with herbs or natural things that are known to calm the nervous system overall as kind of a preventative instead of trying to clean the mess up, trying to do things with that kind of support?
Yeah, the bigger topic there is, do we get the body healthy so that it's always ready to receive anxious moments in our lives, or do we just come into the crisis period to try to calm it down? You'll never do the second one. You'll never come in with a body that's not healthy. We're not doing what we're supposed to do with it, and then come into crisis situations and assume that you're going to fix them. It's about getting the body healthy all the time. So herbs like that, sure. Breathing exercises, meditation, yoga, prayer, whatever works for a person to help them get into a more, a calmer state. Putting the right foods in your body, eating properly, staying away from processed foods. Try to stay as organic as possible. Those kinds of things. You don't have to spend a ton of money. If it's not organic, at least make it whole foods. But stay away from all the prepared foods. They're loaded with salts and sugars and all the preservatives you want to stay away from. Watch your alcohol consumption, all those things. But do we go herbal? Yeah, there are plenty of herbs that are there that help promote a more tranquil way of living.
Well, and part of it is, I'm sensing. I mean, it's pretty clear where we run down the same kind of track of suggestions that I work with in my practice, because I also have a practice working with people, and. But I know sometimes, people try to apply these things like you're talking about at the critical point of crisis. And I'm like, no. You need to do all this stuff early. You need to be doing it before. I mean, the food, obviously, you need to do it before. But you can be doing the breathing exercises, the meditation, the cups of tea. You can make that a regular part of your daily as preventative ways to make you more resistant to the trigger, I guess, is what I was asking.
Yeah.
I haven't. Go ahead.
Absolutely, and it's you can look at this in the context of anxiety. Well, if I get my body healthier, I'm going to be, healthier. I'm going to be more able to deal with anxiety. But the other part of it is you just feel better every day. It's not you don't react to so many things, whether it's depression or anxiety or the stressors in your life. A healthier body is what's going to take you through your life. It helps you be more productive. It helps you be happier. You're in shape more. You can, your body just can do more things. I always say to people, why would you not want that? And then they'll respond and say, well, there's a lot of effort in that. And I said, yeah, you trained your body and your mind to be unhealthy all these years. You can do the same thing and train it to be healthy, and it will respond for you.
Absolutely. And you know what? In the long run, people need to understand it takes less effort to avoid the mess than to clean it up.
Oh, it always does. Absolutely. And again, your body will react, your mind will react to that. It will treat you well. You will feel better. And that's the key to this thing. When you're dealing with so much anxiety, your mind and your body are telling you are not healthy. That's what's going on there. You want to get healthy, again, to enjoy life. That's the primary motive for that. But again, to stay away from all the things that are going to cause you this kind of pain.
And I think sometimes people don't always recognize, and then I'm going to turn it over to Lori for the burning question she's holding on to, which is that these things you're describing give you more resiliency and will provide you a clearer brain with which makes quicker, better decisions, so you don't feel like you're spiraling out of control and you don't know what to do. When you clear up the brain and you have a better well to dip from and you're more resilient, things just aren't going to bother you as much, and you're going to be more optimistic, which is looking for solutions instead of whining about the problems and rolling around in them and then ending up anxious. Is that a fair statement?
Absolutely. And that's you said something there I think that's key, that when you are entrenched in anxiety or depression or whatever it may be, your mind no longer looks for solutions. It wants to stop the pain train, if you will, but it doesn't look for solutions. It's caught up in the pain. It's caught up in the negativity. It's caught up in all those kinds of things. But when you free your body from that, or at least improve your physical condition, your mind has slowed down a little bit. Now it starts to look for options. Now it starts to plan. It starts to organize your life, and you start goal setting and doing all those kinds of things. But you can't get there, or at least it's difficult to get there until you get healthy.
Yeah. You feel more in control. Lori.
You do.
I think it's great because when I was a health and wellness coach, all these things you've said are things that I applied to my clients. The other part, and I saw huge reductions in the anxiety when people cleaned their spaces and kept them organized. Because they would find being in chaos just added to their sense of chaos. Right?
Well, what it does, the chaos is an external representation of what the mind is experiencing. When people do get healthy, they tend to organize their environment. They tend to organize their days. They may even make lists about getting things done. You look at things that you were procrastinating with, which is another huge part of anxiety. That willingness to put things off. I'm too anxious to do this. I'll just get to that, and before you know it, there's a pile which you never get to, and makes you more anxious. So yeah, it will help you organize, and that will be one more item you'll use to change your world.
So I know I see you've done a lot of media. You're really out there, and you've probably been asked this question a million times. But I'm curious, what made you decide to make this a focus?
Well, when you are in practice as long as I am and you see things, you know that this is one of the priorities. When we were putting the empowerment series together, we knew we needed a base book, a foundation book that had all the topics in it, so we did that. Then it was which one comes next. And the pandemic hit and all the national things that were going on hit, and we saw the anxiety level, the anger go up. We saw violence increasing, and all this comes basically from anxiety, from that part of you that you inside you that just wants to tear at yourself and at the world. So, by all means, this was the one we had to get to next if we were going to then build from that point. We've got to get people to be able to calm their bodies, calm their minds down, be able to have some organized thinking, not go at each other the way they are today. And that's it's becoming the way we deal with each other, unfortunately.
Right, right.
Now sometimes we have that everything is a standalone, and sometimes you really miss part of the parade if you don't do things in order. Should people, if they're sitting here going, I have anxiety, or blah blah, my child has anxiety, should they really get the first book first, or could they dive into this book and say, this is really my priority, and then may end up picking up the first book afterwards, but they really want to start here? Would you advise that?
Yeah, they're not built to we don't build anything that it has to go in sequence. What we find is when people are hearing about the second book, they're actually going back and getting the first one. So it doesn't matter. It's really about looking at what's important to you. Getting the anxiety book, if that's going to work for you, by all means.
Okay. So I have to ask, what will the next book in the series be?
Well, that's what we're looking at right now, and we have a couple thoughts in our mind. We're talking about depression. That may just follow. Communication's another topic. Teaching people how to communicate with each other. There's a huge need for that in the country. We're not talking with each other. We're talking at each other these days. So we're going to look at how the world responds to this second book, and then make some decisions about that. The key is to hit this, at a fundamental way. Get to the things like anxiety and depression and bipolar disease and things like that, and get those things where people can deal with those. Because if we don't get those out of the way, it's going to be real hard to try to move ahead on anything else that we're doing.
So, how many books down the road do you feel your book is going to be on? Fix Your Stupidity book?
You looking for that one, Kevin?
I'm looking at it for Christmas gifts.
You rebounded from that well.
Yeah. None of my clients need it because they don't survive as my clients if they don't fix their stupidity. But I do have some family members and friends I'd like to give it to. How you did a bunch of chapters in the first book and the base book, the foundation to build off of. What's your vision of this series? Like, how many books do you see it having? Is it already predetermined? Because
right now we're looking at about 7. By the time it's said and done, we're going to get this book is just going to come out now for publication, and then I'll immediately start the next book as soon as we get some stats, that tells us which way we want to go. So we're looking at 7 or so, and topics like communication, discrimination's another one, depression. There may be something with bipolar. We're talking about helping kids. We're talking about relationships. So all those topics will be part of what we're going to be dealing with.
Okay. So one of the ones I was, and you're going to say, oh yes, and that one too. But one of the ones I was listening for when you said that was addiction.
It's a possibility. What we'll do is we're going to plow through. I'm certified in addiction, so that's not certainly off the table. That's one of the topics that's in there, and we have about, I think there's about 15 we're looking at, and we'll see which ones in the nation we really have to look at. With the addiction one, we're going to watch what we see with marijuana for a while and see where that goes, because we're going to need some information about that. People are thinking that's a cure-all, and we just need to understand it's another drug. So it will have its upside and it will have its downside also. And people will get addicted. That's not a maybe. That old fallacy about not getting addicted to pot is just that. It's a fallacy. So we're going to see where it goes, and hopefully it isn't as bad as we think it could be. But we'll see as time goes on.
So, one of the things is, and I'm pretty sure that you, as you said, a certified addiction trainer or whatever. counselor is, you know, the very nature of addiction is you can get addicted to anything because you can get mentally or emotionally addicted to stuff, and it doesn't have to have physiological addictive properties to be addicted to it.
No, it doesn't. There's a process we talk about, a neurological process called habit formation, where the brain adjusts to whatever we're doing, and it tries to keep us happy. It's just that happiness component of the brain. And whatever we do, the brain will adjust to it. So addiction can, that those kind of components can occur. It's pretty broad spectrum. On the other hand, habit formation also says that the brain will adjust to anything healthy that we do to it. So all that work you're doing, and you think it's, geez, this is really hard. Your brain's going to adjust to it, and it's going to get easier, and you're going to set goals that are higher than you ever did before because your brain is now adjusting and liking that healthy component that you're providing it with.
Well, there is that question that I've heard people go both ways. Is there anything such thing as a healthy addiction? And see, I think that you can become addicted in a healthy way to healthy things, but there's a line you cross where even healthy things can become unhealthy if you're doing them to an extreme. So, it's kind of a wave in the middle. But yeah, I was curious about that. Now, I haven't, because I haven't been in practice as long as you have, but I'm coming up to my 33rd year, so I'm not the first block on the radio. But I'll ask that question when I get back. And I want you to think of the question that no one ever asked that you would like to be asked in our last segment. And we'll be right back here on the Dr. Kevin.
The Real Conscious Connection. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
Vox Novus, the new voice. Vox Novus, the new dimension. Vox Novus, thought and movement leaders who will share from their experience and offer tools to help us navigate our rapidly changing world. My name is Victor Furman. Join me every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio for Vox Novus, the new voice.
If I could be you.
And you could be me?
For just 1 hour.
If you could find a way
to get inside
each other's mind.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
We've all felt left out. And for some, that feeling lasts more than a moment. We can change that. Learn how at belongingbeginswithus.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Hello, and welcome back to the last episode of the Dr. Kevin Show. I'm here with my monthly co-host, Miss Lori, Reverend Lori. And tonight's guest is Faust Ruggiero. We're talking about his second book in the Fix Yourself Empowerment series called How to Fix Your Anxiety. And he's going to tell us before the show's over where's the best place to get that. And is that book out? Because something you said made me think that it's not quite out yet. Is it out?
Not yet. No, we're okay. Nearing publication now. We're doing all the promotional stuff now, and we'll have a little spot on Amazon where you can pre-order the book. That's coming up within the next week or two.
Okay, great. Well, certainly, if you make sure that your people send me the direct link to your book when it's available, we'll go back and post it with this podcast, with the podcast version of this radio show that we put out. so people will have a click link after they've listened to the show once it's available.
Will do, thank you.
So, yeah, so we want to make sure that people can, everybody just likes to click a link. So I'm curious if you feel, without using medication, can bipolar be fixed?
Can bipolar be fixed? I'm not being fixed. That's one of those conditions where it depends on it, where it's 1 or 2, bipolar 1 or 2. When you've got the type of bipolar where you go into a deep depression and then into periods where you are manic and just can't calm it down, medicine usually comes into that. But again, when we look at those things, the body's not healthy. The people aren't doing what they need to be healthy most of the time. So we want to be able to get people healthy. Can it be fixed, cured? Probably. I wouldn't say that. We want to get to the point that people can enjoy a healthy life, and certainly you can. Medicine for an acute bipolar will probably be part of the picture. But again, regardless of what we're talking about when we talk mental health, we have to recognize the mind-body connection. And if the body is not healthy, it doesn't matter what condition you have or what you're doing in your life, you're going to take it down a few notches.
I specifically, because I work more in the alternative side of things than the traditionals, and I don't get involved with medicines at all. And I have worked with some bipolar clients through the years, and we have had success without medication to get them to a life that they manage, can live in, and be happy in. And that's why I was curious because you listed it as one of your things. I would have never thought to bring it up, because it's been fix your anxiety, and then you've mentioned a couple of times bipolar, and of course that would be the title of the book, I would assume, because all the books start with the fix thing.
Yeah. So when we talk about, and that's why I say bipolar is one of those things we're going to look very closely at, but we want to be able to fix at least the components in one's life that are going to make it become a condition that's out of control. For some people, it is so serious that fixing it's going to be a real difficult thing to do. But for other people, it is bad because they're doing the wrong thing. So we're going to fix those components, help people fix those components in their lives, so that doesn't continue to be a menacing condition at the level that paralyzes.
Okay. Well, again, that was my curiosity because of not my personal history, my professional history with it is a better way to see it. My professional history of working with it. So, Lori, I'm gonna bap that ball over to you. Oh, actually, I asked this before the last session went into it. Is there any question that you never get asked that you really think this would be a cool question for somebody to ask me? I know you've done a lot of interviews, but as somebody who has also done a lot of interviews, when I have had different books coming out, sometimes people just go on one track and we go, this is the thing I wish somebody would ask me about. I want to give you that opportunity. This is your time I call it my, that to speak out about anything that doesn't normally get looked at or asked or whatever.
Kevin, the thing that I work with most and the thing I love to talk about most, and people don't always ask this, they'll talk about fixing your world, they'll talk about what's going on in the world. And what I want people to understand is that you get healthy internally first. You fix your body, your emotions, your mind, your soul. I always talk about the internal balance, balancing those 4 attributes: physical, intellectual, emotional, spiritual, balancing them. That's how you become strong. If you had a day in your life and you can look at it and say, geez, that day I really felt good, you're going to realize there wasn't anything physically that was bothering you. Emotionally, you seemed to be okay. Things weren't all over the place for you. Intellectually, you were organized. There was clarity of thought. Spiritually, you felt connected. That's what we want to look for. When people can work for that, that's what the first book talks about. when people can work with that, a lot of these conditions fall by the wayside because they're strong inside. They don't react to all the stress. It doesn't build. They don't get depressed about things because the mind is now organized enough to deal with it. But you've got to get strong first. And that's what we teach in the first book, which is how to balance the mind, balance the body, the emotion, take life off a toxic autopilot, if you will. So the question I love the most is, how do you take your life and begin to organize it so that it can become healthy and strong on the inside? And that's what we teach. It's about balancing those four attributes.
Now, how much, a lot of my primary, and then I'll let you ask Lori, because I'm sorry, I think I cut you off. How much does your work ever get into the spiritual, or does it say you need to get your spiritual in order?
That's a patient by patient kind of a thing. I always work with all four of those attributes, so spiritual is part of it. That doesn't necessarily mean that I push any form of religion on anyone. When I talk about spirituality, I'm talking about connecting to the deepest parts of you. God is certainly one of those parameters, and so I don't shy away from anything like that. I use that a lot in my practice. Some people are willing to go there, some people are not, and that's completely up to them. I just tell them there are four components, they are there, and the better you can deal with all four, the better off you are. Some people choose to only deal with three. Some people try to go with two. The more you cut out, the more you miss. So, do I use the spiritual part? Yeah, as much as I can, but I try to be respectful enough not to push anything in anyone's direction.
Lori, go ahead.
I love that you said that, and I've been really fascinated by this interview. But I think that the question our listeners are asking is about you. I mean, why did you get into this? Why is this important to you? Come from. In my view of things, I've heard this. I think it may go back to people like Mark Twain said these kinds of things. You come into the world. That's your first important moment, and the second one is when you define why you're here. And for me, I've always been an in-service person. That's what I do. I can't imagine my life without it. So my willingness to continue to help people. I'm 67. I could retire a long time ago, but when I hang up the phone, I'll have two more people to see tonight. That's just what I do. I love what I do. Helping people through this, in my mind, there's no better way to live. Excellent. I love that. Because you look at the whole and not, let's face it, we all know counselors and coaches and doctors that are in it for the money.
Yeah.
And nobody ever gets better when they go to those people. But
it's hard, and we're all doing everything online and without being right in someone's office. I still counsel in the office. I have maybe 3 or 4 people that I do with a phone call or an online because they live far away. Everyone else comes to my office. I want to see them. I want to see how I want to see that body language. I want to be able to have them in a space where they can feel what safe space is all about. And you don't feel safe space. I don't care who it is and how you work. You don't feel safe space with a computer. Just don't. You're actually counseling from the place that often you have the most stress.
Oh, something. I know a lot of people that do phone or over the computer still for various concerns, and I understand and respect that. But like you, I prefer to be face-to-face with the person so I can actually see how they're reacting, how they interact. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing is, I'm not a person who won't give someone a hug if they need it. I mean, a little pat on the shoulder when they leave. Sometimes you've gone through with something with someone and they get pretty deep into something that really, really hurts them. They've opened up to you, and you see them leave the office, and they just give you that look and say, "Geez, you can just give me a hug or something." Well, you can't hug the computer, so. For me,
right.
I like that personal component. I think that's what this was meant to be. And we are now in the age of computers, and pandemic put us in a position where we had to do some things. When that happened, people said, "Well, gee, I can continue to do this thing. I'm not going to pay rents and mortgages and all that stuff that I paid before. I can double my income and do it this way." I understand that. I even respect it, but I think the people have to come first, and that should be the first question. Can I give them as much help as I sit by my computer while they're in their home? Can I do it as well as I do it in the office? That's a tall order.
Well, yeah, and is different, of course. I mean, there are some people that can still convey the compassion and whatever, but I'm a big hugger. I just find that when I work with clients and they've bared their soul, that is one thing they desperately need.
Yeah.
And I like hugs, so why not?
Yes, you do, Lori.
I do. I like hugs.
So do I. I'm a hugger like both of you. I come at this slightly different. No right, no wrong. Just to come from a different perspective is, in this day and age, 90% of my clients live so far away, they can't come to my office. Some are in other countries even. So, I think you do what you can with what you've got. So also as a bohemian, as Lori knows, I like to be at different places in the world at different times, and I can still serve my clients as long as they can get on the phone. I don't like computer. I'd actually rather do phone. Believe it or not, that actually feels better to me than being on the computer. But so I know we've only got a couple more minutes left. You're expecting this book out again. Can you say when? And people are going to find it on Amazon. And can you give us all that information so we all hear it one more time?
Yeah, hoping by the end of November. For anyone that is interested in this or the first book, again, it's my website, FaustRuggiero.com. That website is dedicated to the Fix Yourself Empowerment series. Everything about the books is there. They can see excerpts from the books, all media, all the interviews I've done. Whatever they need to know about what I'm doing is there. They'll get a real in-depth picture of what we're doing. So and books are the links for the books are there. Everything, contact links, everything are right there.
So you on a few different occasions referred to we. Do you have a partner in this series?
No, this is mine.
Okay.
When I say we, it's just my promotional team and agents, that type of thing. We'll talk things over, but I'm the workhorse, Kevin.
Me and my team. I get it. I do the same thing, but I just wanted to make sure that we were getting that out. So the first book is available. They can go to the website. The second book we're hoping is out after the November. And I'm sure there's going to be a way where people can reach out and contact you and go, and this is the third book we want to see.
I'm sure they will.
And can do that. Now, you've got a couple more interviews. Do you do any speaking engagements or just interviews promoting the book at this point?
We're across the board. I'll be in outside of Philadelphia on next Monday, I think next Tuesday, doing a television interview, an in-studio television interview there. So we do whatever my publicist schedules. Put it that way.
I actually know that one.
There you go.
Yep. They're real whip crackers. I guess it was, is there an opportunity not not like to see you on a TV show, but do you ever do any like speaking engagements? Do you teach this in any form?
Sure.
Do you get on any kind of stage?
Yep.
And do you have any of those coming up?
Not at the moment. As we get close to publication, and we'll try to stay close to the office, and take a day here, a day there. There's a couple that have asked, and we'll look at those. But right now, with publication so close, we're going to put all our energies there.
Okay. So that's good to know. If you have been fascinated by this conversation, though, if you feel like this is something, then I'm sure that if you go to FaustRuggiero.com, that there is a way that I bet that you could probably, as much as he dislikes it, could book him to come speak to your people through Zoom or something else as he's staying close to the office. But don't miss an opportunity to take advantage of 40 years of doing this. Now, why did you choose, I know we're going to run out of time any minute. I should have asked this question before. Why did you choose the word fix? Fix has a very interesting energy.
So you can't fix this. When we started doing this, the publishing houses were saying, no, we don't want to make people think they're broken. And my opinion is, you've got some things that aren't working for you, let's fix them. That's all. I say that. I've been saying that in my practice forever. Okay, you got some things going on. Let's work together and fix those things, and let's get you happy.
So you're fixing things, not people. That's a huge delineation. Thank you so much for that.
Sure.
And thank you for joining us here on the Dr. Kevin Show. Next week, we have Matt Connerton as we look at the political survey, as we always do on the first Thursday of the month. Lori, thanks for being here. Well, let us know when your next book is out.
Kevin, it has been a pleasure. Thanks for everything.
Bye.
Bye.